Hello, welcome to another edition from Bars to the Bricks Prison Ministries. My name's Kevin. I've unfortunately done over 20 years inside the Kansas prison system. Evidently, today is going to be a video we can't talk. So, today I have with me a very, very special guest in many ways. Mr. Larry here has been my volunteer, my mentor. He's been there when I needed him. When I didn't see God's glory, I didn't see what's going on. Larry was there to help. Not that, hey, here's $1,000, go do whatever. No, that responsible to help up, not to hand out, and that's what a guy needs. So I wanted to bring Larry on today, talk to him a little bit, introduce him to you guys, so you guys can see from a volunteer's perspective, going into a prison system and helping guys, what his experiences are with guys on the outside. Anyway, without further ado, let me introduce Larry. Larry, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, I retired. I've been a Christian, raised in a Christian home, good Bible-believing churches, good solid family. I'm married. I've got 3 daughters, grandkids. I've got just high school education and a little bit of Bible college education, and just a desire to help people, whether it's church situations or had opportunity to get involved with Kansas Prison Ministry. And when I was a young child, and I mean probably before kindergarten, first grade, my parents had a friend called, his name was Adam Schrog, and he did a jail ministry in Saline County Jail in Salina. And I remember that, and I remember him talking about going in, visiting with the inmates, having a Bible study, and even at that age, that intrigued me. And I remember him being told that I can't go in because I was too young. But and then that just sort of hung on, and I don't even know how long ago.
That's what I was just getting ready to ask a follow-up. I just thought I didn't have earlier. I just thought of how long you've been involved in volunteering total. How long have you been part of the Match 4 program?
Well, let's see, I'm trying to think. It was...
Because I met you in either late 19 or early 20.
05, I'm thinking 07 maybe. No. Had been in 05 or 06. So it's been 14, 16 years, 15, 16 years since I first got involved.
That's awesome.
And I was out for a couple years because of my work schedule. Mm-hmm. My job was just so irregular that I couldn't commit to anything. Literally, I didn't have a social life. I didn't have anything. I was married to my job for a couple of years, and that stepped out. And then I got back in. I got Mentoring for Success, and that's where I met you. Mm-hmm. And if I do remember one of our first meetings there in Winfield, I told you that if you ever lied to me, we'd have problems, and I was out of there.
Yep.
I don't care how many times you fell on your face, how many times you be honest with me, you tell, and we'll find a solution to it, and we'll help you through it. But if you lie to me, and that's what it's been built on.
Yeah, and that's one thing. That's very important, I would say, in any aspect of life, but especially like in a volunteer situation, you need to clarify your expectations. Because if you don't clarify them, they'll never know until they violate them. They can't be that's kind of a common sense one in some ways, but you know, some people just don't understand how serious people are about that.
Yeah.
But, that's really interesting. You know, that's a lot of years into the volunteering and everything. That's really neat. So, I guess maybe you kind of covered my second question in your story in the first, because I was what inspired you to volunteer and become a mentor in the prison, and you kind of covered that.
Mm-hmm.
So, when you first became a volunteer, sought out the process, and you said through prison ministry, so I'm assuming you're Lynn McBride.
Mm-hmm.
You went through, you said, training at El Dorado Correctional Facility. So, the training you got and then the real life situation, was it what you expected? Was it different? If so, how and why? I mean,
Well, when you go through the training, they want you to understand that some of these guys are out to con you, out to use you to get whatever they want you to get. But they also, you know, not everybody's like that. But you gotta keep a wall up, I guess. I don't know. You got to keep your guard up so that you don't get sucked into that situation. So, but you still want to be able to help and communicate and encourage and help the guys to learn what the things that they need to learn. And we got a friend coming up here.
welcome to Lita to the program. For the guys who haven't looked on the site and everything, that is our future psychiatric support dog for the ministries. But I guess she wants to make her debut tonight. So,
okay, get down.
Down, Lita.
Get down. There you go. And so it's
Training in progress.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, you know, but and I've had some guys try to that I've worked with that have tried to use me, and we just sort of get that understanding like this ain't gonna happen. You can't ask me for this help.
Yeah.
I can't give it to you. I'm not going to. So, and that was the end of that. And it was sort of maybe it was a trial thing. Let's see how far we can push him. And you stand your ground and you get the respect and I've had some pretty good inmates that I've had opportunity to minister to and to encourage and be encouraged by them. I've been challenged by some of them that have really challenged my spiritual walk and made me look at
I've probably been kind of challenging in some ways, especially when I first got out.
where I'm at.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
might have been one of them challenging guys when I
Uh-huh.
first got out. I was kind of stuck in my ways and nope, doing it my way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I moved forward and ended up progressing, but still, I wasn't completely grown up yet.
Yeah.
Now, do you find, is it easier to actually go into the prison and meet with an inmate, whether it be on a mentoring level or a match 2 level or a volunteer with a Christian organization or whatever, or interacting on the outside? Is there anything particular that's easier, harder? Do you like it better, one or the other better than the other? And maybe why? That's
Well, when you're on the inside, like the Match 2 program, where it was once a month, and we was in there for an hour and a half for almost 2 hours, and it was a very limited environment, so that and yet very sort of structured.
Mm-hmm.
But on the outside, there was more opportunity to see development and growth, and to see things that you talked about put into practice,
Sure.
and to see the success there, and sometimes failures,
Mm.
and to take a step back and go,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what happened and why did it happen, and what are we going to do to keep it from happening again?
Yeah.
So, fortunately, I've never had to go back to the prison administration and go, um, I've got I've got to report something,
Yeah.
because we have guidelines and we've got boundaries that we can't cross. And when we get close to that, we're supposed to go and let them know that there's an issue,
Mm-hmm.
so we can deal with it. And I've never had to be in that position, for which I'm thankful.
Well, and I know it is difficult as a prisoner. Most of us, appreciate every single volunteer that comes into the system. In El Dorado, with the Match 2 program, Larry, a very busy man, came in and volunteered his time. Guy that named Jim Wiesen. If you guys from Wichita, you heard of Wichita Roofing? He owned Wichita Roofing. Very busy man. Used to come in to El Dorado and volunteer. I think he still does. Jim's getting up there in age, but Nick Donlinger, Donlinger and Sons Construction again. So people know who these people are, especially like Nick Donlinger. Everybody knows from that area who Nick Donlinger is. So everybody wants $1 from him, and it's got to wear on him, and I don't know how some of them do it, because it's like a constant no, and to me it's almost insulting when volunteers are brought in and guys go up and ask them for stuff. For one, that's completely against the rules. That's what we call undue familiarity. Like at our JC events, that could have caused problems for our chapter, but it has happened. Fortunately, it was taken care of before it went to an administrative level, because inside the prison system, us inmates, we got our own set of laws too, and we try to, and not everything's handled with, don't get all the crazy violence thing, with like in our organization stuff. We handled our own business. It wasn't through violent means or whatever, but if you want to continue to serve in this organization, be a part of this organization, see this organization succeed, to be able to help others, then you need to follow the rules. And you need to be respectful of our guests, or you will not be in attendance of any of our events. And because we were a nonprofit, so we're a 501c nonprofit, major nonprofit inside a prison system, but we didn't have to let you in. We had the rights just like every other business, right to turn business away. So anyway, and so what is it you enjoy the most about?
Oh, seeing the change in an inmate, mainly the about the only changes that you can see when you visit with somebody is their attitude change,
Mm-hmm.
how they look at life, how they look at situations, how they their thought process.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, maybe they just don't blow up all of a sudden. They just back off and take a little different perspectives of something. How they think about treating women, their outlook on children.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've talked to guys about their marital relationships, about relationships with their kids, and how it can be different only seeing them a couple hours a month, as opposed to being a parent 24/7.
Yeah, we just had that discussion earlier.
It's a different thing, but it's the interacting with the inmate. I know I've been through some book studies,
Mm-hmm.
and been able to write down and watch them record and go through at the end of maybe a 12-week or a 16-week study, and go back to the beginning of the book and see how they'd answer them.
Right.
You know, go back and see the mind change, and then being able to make the transition to the outside, and to see him put it into practice, and
Definitely.
and come up with a guy and go, hey, Kevin, you got a problem. You know, we need to sit down and talk about this attitude that I've seen coming through, or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
And being able to do that, and sort of get them back on track, and all before, and that's been encouraging. And in this case with Kevin, to see his dreams start to come to fruition.
Yeah.
Is that the word?
Yeah. It's come to life.
Yeah, and it's going to be satisfying to see, and to see if I can to see what I can do, be part of it, and still be part of the prison system, but to see how much of the local jail system I can be part of.
By this time next year, we will be tied in with the DOC. My plan, my goal, one way I got a couple different routes. I've got 3 different routes. I'm trying to obtain one property right now. One of them's going to work. By this time next year, I will have a reintegration home opened in Anderson County. You can bet on it.
There we go.
Take it to the bank. Larry's heard about this for the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
People like Eric, my little brother, you got the guys that watch both of our channels, you'll know, man, we're really close. Eric's heard about this over and over and over. We used to have to sit in the cell, and he'd have to listen to me talk about where my ministry's going to go, what I'm going to do. And, this isn't something I thought about yesterday. I've been doing this stuff for over 10 years. Started in the prison system, and just now am I able to get that opportunity where I've been myself putting to practice of the stuff that I've been teaching and saying, and being able now I have the time that I've been out and been putting that stuff together where I can go back in now here really soon. 4 months. So I'm so excited. I can't wait till training ends and April comes and I can go back into Lansing or one of these facilities and volunteer and give back. But anyway, I appreciate the comments too, because it has been a long, long life dream, and I want to do a lot with this ministries. Now I have one other. As far as volunteering and mentoring or whatever, are there any dislikes or drawbacks or anything that you'd like to see maybe that might work better if something was different? Or do you think it should just remain the same?
Well, as far as Kansas prison ministry, they've been able to make some changes where it used to be we could only work with one inmate at a time, and last I knew before COVID, I was able to have 2 inmates that I visited with, each one once a month, but I was able to do it every other week, which sort of stressed my schedule, but it was also encouraging too, because I knew I made a difference, or I felt like I was making a difference in the guys' lives.
Sure.
And so that's been good. I'd like to be able to.
Wow, you have been a volunteer for a while. I remember when it went from 1 to 2. I was in El Dorado. We were building the new Spiritual Life Center, and we wasn't done with it yet. So I let me give a shout out real quick. He started Kansas Prison Ministries. That is Mr. Lynn McBride. Go check that ministry out. Support that ministry. He does a lot for the community. He does a lot for the prisons. He's built several very beautiful, had coordinated the donations and had built several beautiful, beautiful spiritual life centers that has provided places for worship, for classes, for guys to congregate, for religious purposes and non-religious purposes. Uh, great ministries, and
It's just about the ability to have a church inside a facility.
yep.
I've been to a couple services, and they have services, and they have ushers, and they have greeters, and it is just like going to. I say it's just like. It's not quite just like, but it's as close to going to church inside as outside can be, and it's quite the experience. But they have like I said, classrooms that they can go and have Bible studies in, and have their they got a computer.
I can give you about complete statistics on the Spiritual Life Center in El Dorado. I was an electrician on that. Me and Eric wired all that stuff, all the lighting, all the stage lighting, all that. We did all the electrical in there.
So is that why
That's why nothing works.
The switch that's marked.
It's got some.
That's marked front turns the back light on.
Well, someone switched something, but the lighting panel they have issues with because it's too smart for the people that are operating it. And they always mess it up. But I've still troubleshoot that panel to this day. One of the off the record, somebody calls me, and but I mean. There's 14 classrooms, one multi-purpose room, a huge sanctuary, a computer room that has access to Bible study materials, GED, language programs, literacy programs. All these are supplies, and the site licenses. That was huge. Mr. McBride and that ministry, it was, I don't remember, it was at least $20,000 or $30,000 per site license because there's so many computers in there, but these were all volunteers that put their time and money. The El Dorado Correctional Facility Spiritual Life Center ended up being about $1.25 million. Most of it was inmate labor. I'll tell you what, if you ever get a chance to go tour a facility, go into El Dorado and get a tour of that Spiritual Life Center, it's amazing. And some of the things that happen in there, inmate helping other inmates, these volunteers that give their time. There's life transformations going on because of I didn't interrupt. That's a passion of mine. I put a lot of time. I worked on that thing for 3 or 4 years. That was our main project, so.
I'd heard about that, and then I had, I had to go through an application to get a permit to go in on a Sunday evening, I think it was, and so I got that process, and then I went, and you sort of have a picture of what it's going to be like, and you walk in, and it's like, wow, this is really nice. It's a top-notch facility. It's got all the proper equipment to get done what they need to get done, and just to realize that there are born again Christians inside, that some of them are Christians before they went in. I mean, Christians fall. We fall on our face and we screw up, and we got consequences. And there's others that have found the Lord inside, and it's made a difference in their life, and they love the Lord and they express it, and like I said earlier, sometimes it really just makes me look at my walk and where I'm at, and am I keeping up with these guys that's on the inside? Sometimes, you sort of have a mental picture that isn't accurate of life.
Yeah. Now, what would you say to those people that are sitting there listening right now and hearing us describe this spiritual life center in a prison, like, man, state of the art, $1.25 million. They got all the stuff that's like, man, why do these prisoners got it better than what would you say to that?
Well, why do they have it better?
Yeah, how come these prisoners have such nice stuff, you know?
I don't know why.
I can say this much of it. I want everybody to know very clearly that these spiritual life centers in Hutch, in El Dorado, in Ellsworth, Winfield that's going up, these are privately funded. None of your tax money, not 1 cent, goes towards those.
Yeah.
That is to help a man get out
And
stay out.
And my question is if you think they have all the best stuff, you need. I don't know how to put this politely. You need to look at your church, and if you don't have what it takes to minister to the people that's going that's in your fellowship or in your community that you're trying to reach,
Preach it, Larry.
you don't have the equipment to do it. Why don't you have? The church I go to, we have, since COVID and we locked down, we decided we were going to have services, and we invested thousands of dollars in live streaming equipment, new soundboard, live streaming computer dedicated to just that. And we got a guy that we pay to come in and to run that, because he's got a business a video business and he punches through that and runs that thing like it's just second nature to him. And if you're thinking you need to reach out to your community and you don't have live stream, ask yourself why, and look at your pocketbook and say, what can I do to help? It might not be much, but it might be what you need to get the ball rolling and get other people involved.
Well, yeah, I tell you, in starting a ministry, it is hard.
Yeah.
It is so much work. I didn't realize how much work went into this stuff, but I love this stuff and I want to give back. I don't know where most of my funds are coming. I got bills I don't know where it's coming from. It'll show up. It'll happen. It always does. I'm not going to stress on it. I put it in God's hands. And He's going to make things happen. I can't just sit back and wait for things to fall in my lap, but you know what I mean? I got to do me, and people are going to see what's going on. They're going to want to be involved. I just got to prove me. And
I know. I've sat on board meetings at church, and they're going like, how are we going to pay for this? How are we going to do this? And my question is
if God wants it, God's going to make it happen.
What does God want us to do? Mm-hmm. And if He tells us that we need to start this children's ministry, we need to start that children's ministry. Yep. And then we need to be responsible with what we're doing and how fast we grow and what we put into it. But also, if we feel that the Lord says you need to do this, we need to do it, and then it's God's responsibility for Him to pay for His projects.
Yeah,
those are His projects. That's His problem.
I mean, sometimes in a way, I believe we have a purpose, and I think what it is, like with my ministries, I've finally found my purpose.